Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the archive. It's Madison, and it's also Sunday morning. I need you all to know I have been obsessed with aespa's latest music video, Lemonade. I was already having a hard time just getting through the clips of SHINee's first concert back. And it feels like forever, because I need that US tour. So imagine my surprise when I got on YouTube and saw this Lemonade video that aespa has been promoting so heavily dropped. And let me just go ahead and say, I think aespa's Lemonade might be one of their most ambitious music videos to date. Because after watching this music video about 10 times, pausing every 3 seconds, I really started to notice something from last Friday. aespa really isn't just delivering cool visuals in this compact. It felt like they were taking things a step further. It feels like aespa is building an entire world inspired by Cold War era imagery, surveillance, authority, propaganda, and catastrophe, and somehow turning all of that into a message about confidence. Yeah, let that sink in. So let me just jump right into it, because you're probably wondering, okay, how did Madison get Cold War aesthetic from aespa's music video? The first thing that seemed to jump out at me was how many visual references there were that were connected to the 1950s and also the 1960s. So you've got the mod fashion, the space age interiors, geometric dresses, bright colors, and retro styling. But at the same time, you also have military uniforms, crash test dummies, bomb imagery in shelters, hazard yellow environments, and really heavy surveillance imagery. And I think that's what makes this video in itself just so fascinating, to me at least, because both of those things existed simultaneously during the Cold War. So when we think about the 1960s, we tend to remember the optimism, right? The space race, the technology, the future. There was a lot of excitement, but people were also living with nuclear anxiety, bomb shelters, testing, government surveillance, fear about what could happen tomorrow, right? And so it feels like Lemonade is pulling from both sides of that in this era. The hopeful future, the anxious future, both sitting there at the same time. And honestly, like, I'm sitting here saying, how is that not a call out to how things are today? Part of why this imagery feels so reflective right now is because I feel like we're also living through a similar contradiction. People are incredibly hopeful about technology, AI, innovation, and what the future can look like. But at the same time, we're constantly surrounded by conversations about war, surveillance, instability, and global conflict. So anyways, that's why I feel like this video feels so modern, despite borrowing from so much of the visual language of the 1950s and 1960s. So let's talk about the military uniforms specifically, because I, as an SM historian and stan here, been paying my dues since 2012. I'm just happy aespa finally got their military era. And honestly, it was worth the wait, because these aren't really those realistic military uniforms. They're high fashion, they're authority. I know you all saw those structured silhouettes and exaggerated shoulders, the all black styling, the belts, like everything about them really communicates power. And throughout this music video, aespa are constantly and pretty consistently framed as the people in control. Another interesting element that I saw kept coming up in this music video was the crash dummies. And that might be because I just got into an accident a few weeks ago. But at first I was like, okay, this is a cool visual. And then I just kept seeing them over and over again, especially in those bright yellow rooms, which, okay, are we getting back to the SM box? That immediately reminded me of hazard signs and testing facilities, especially if aespa is in a bomb shelter and these lemons really are the bombs that they're using to turn everything into more of what they want, question mark? I don't know. But these crash dummies exist for one reason, and it's to understand what happens after the impact. We see that scene in the first verse where Karina's rapping and she falls back, because when you start combining that with the bomb imagery, the hazard colors, literally the military styling, you start to really ask yourself, what happens when the disaster is unavoidable? What happens when the impact is inevitable? And aespa seems to be really answering here and saying, hey, I'll make it lemonade, right? Another thing that really started to make me feel like I was going kind of crazy is because I kept noticing the eyes, that eye shape everywhere. The oval frames, the circular windows, the lens-shaped environments. It almost looked like the TV screens that were very reflective of the 1950s and the 1960s. Very observation style camera angles also throughout this music video. And then as we look into those street scenes when they're doing the dancing and when some of the girls are doing their verses, we start to see the repeated Lemonade posters throughout the city with the same message over and over again. And let me just tell you, those immediately brought me back to my high school AP ELA class. It may have even, no, it was definitely high school, reading 1984, because I don't think this music video is really adapting George Orwell, but it's really borrowing from that same visual language of surveillance, observation, control. The fact that Big Brother is always watching, at least that's the part of what was true in Orwell's world. But as we're literally in aespa's world, in Lemonade, aespa are the ones who are doing the watching. They're literally, I'm thinking of those two shots where Karina and Winter were positioned in those eye-shaped frames, not outside of them, but inside them. And then when things are playing on the TV, the girls are literally circling that screen. So aespa is literally occupying the position of power. And then the posters make sense, the uniforms make sense, all the eye imagery makes sense, because aespa really isn't trapped in this world like we may have seen in past music videos where they're trying to fight the people. Or, I mean, is this Kwangya? Like they're literally running it. So anyways, I kind of alluded to my SM historian hat earlier, but I don't think it's an accident that this video feels so familiar. I literally feel like aespa is over time inheriting from all the groups that came before. I mean, they literally performed SES's song Dreams Come True, which, you know, I love the original version. I also love aespa's version, and they actually worked and developed that with Boa. Girl, that's a conversation for another day. But anyways, aespa has already been inheriting a lot from the groups that came before them, and this music video takes it a step further. That military styling immediately called me back to SHINee's Everybody era and Girls' Generation's Genie era, but instead of wearing white suits or red suits, they're in all black. So it's a much more dramatic, I feel, take, which is really them incorporating these different pieces into their world. Another thing that kind of called out to me is when Crystal, I mean, scratch that, when Giselle was pouring that glass of lemonade, it took me right back to FX's Four Walls music video as well. I think it was really cool that they are now incorporating like callbacks to their past videos as well, with Winter and Ning during Winter's verse in the second, after the first chorus, when they're both like hitting each other and falling back. And honestly, when I first listened to this song, I don't know if I was just so overwhelmed, but I was convinced that Lemonade was aespa's I Got a Boy, or even Zimzalabim, because the members were rapping, they're singing. I mean, I was just shocked at the fact that they were all-rounders. Plus, the song seemed to change pretty drastically, in my opinion, from chorus to pre-chorus, which felt very aespa-core, like, you know, very hard cyberpunk, to straight pop, which was hard. And then also the rap in the verses also was kind of throwing me off. And then Winter's verse specifically, like, anyways, what I'm trying to say is I was gagged all throughout this. And I'm also listening to this track and just imagining what it would sound like at the end of one of aespa's concerts, just like when I hear Zimzalabim, or I see those clips of Zimzalabim at the end of Red Velvet's concerts. And I'm just like, wow. You know, I was really thinking about how Joy said that Red Velvet had sat on Zimzalabim for years before Lee Soo-man felt like they were ready for it. And watching this music video, I couldn't help but think about that story, because songs like this require commitment. You can't really halfway perform a song that changes every 30 seconds. So if Lemonade really was aespa's version of that challenge, they absolutely delivered. So congratulations. The more I listen to the actual track, I realize that the song itself isn't nearly that chaotic. The music video is actually doing a lot of that work. What's actually impressive is that the instrumental leaves a ton of space for the members. So the beat really isn't carrying the song. It's aespa that's carrying the song. And I will just say, like, This is the first time I've watched an aespa release and thought that they belong in the same creative conversation as some of those other landmark SM eras. Like, I actually got to see aespa live in 2024. And if I'm being honest, I kind of walked away feeling like they still had room to grow as performers. I thought the songs were good, the potential was there, but I wasn't completely sold yet. And I also felt like aespa truly hadn't found their identity. I think at that time, SM was also trying to find their identity after losing Lee Soo Man. But hey, then came Supernova, then came Whiplash, and now comes Lemonade. And for the first time, I feel like I'm actually starting to watch a group that understands exactly what they are. The fact that the members themselves are now strong enough to carry concepts that once relied heavily on SM's production style. Wow. I'll even go as far to say I was so thrown off guard the first minute of that music video. It had such 21 energy, especially the sound of this song is giving like such 21 sound, like if it was today. So anyways, I was really blown away watching this music video because I'm trying to understand what the overall message of this is, right? The world of Lemonade is filled with surveillance, authority, impact, catastrophe, uncertainty. But aespa didn't look worried. They weren't afraid. They weren't overwhelmed. The message wasn't really that nothing bad will happen. It just looked more like something bad will happen, right? They were constantly spilling the lemonade. The bombs are going out. Lemons were literally turning sour, but they made it useful to them anyway. They made it lemonade, right? And the more I think about it, the more I think this may be aespa's first true victory lap title track. Because think about it, they always seem to be fighting something in these other videos, right? Winter literally said at the end of the song, "Welcome back to my world." Because honestly, thank you, aespa. I had no idea where we were in some of the last eras that we got to experience. So maybe we're on our way back to Kwangya, which also is making me question, like, what happened in Kwangya that aespa got to do this? So anyways, you know, after after all of that, maybe the final message that aespa is trying to tell us here is that we shouldn't cry over spilt lemonade, because you can see that it's clearly dominating their world. So anyways, yes, I probably did too much. Yes, I probably said too much, but yeah, that's what the Lemonade music video has been making me think about. So everyone, welcome back to my high school AP ELA classes, because yeah, SM is going Cold War. Like, is SM really making a political statement? Let me know what y'all think. Did y'all also get these vibes when you were watching the music video, or am I just thinking about this too hard? Let me know. Let me know in the comments.